Hey there, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I'm Cassandra from CassandraTyndall.com. Welcome if you're new, and it's great to see you if you've been here before. We are in an eclipse week. This week, beginning September 1st, is a week infused with a lot of changes. All that being said, though, it's not our first rodeo. We do have a Pisces eclipse, so a full moon or a lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces, which essentially is perhaps illuminating or backlighting a longer thread or a longer storyline, aka Saturn in Pisces. Saturn returned to Pisces after a brief few months of Saturn in Aries, and now Saturn's come back for the next 5.5 months to wrap up storylines in your life that began around March of 2023. I've already done some episodes about Saturn in Pisces, so I won't go too much into that here right now. But this eclipse that is going to be happening at 15 degrees of Pisces on the 7th or the 8th of September, depending on your time zone, is most certainly going to sort of illuminate or backlight what Saturn, this next sort of Saturn chapter is for you. So, in today's podcast, this week's podcast, what I want to share with you is a few ideas about the eclipse and a few ideas about sort of, the Saturn component as well, because these events are certainly going to spotlight some big karmic changes, especially in the Pisces part of your life. There may be a sense of heaviness or a weightiness that you might have already felt prior to this eclipse really starting to take shape. That's because Saturn has kind of warmed up that place again. We had Neptune move into Aries back in March. We had Saturn move into Aries back in May. And so from May until now, we have only had the North Node move through Pisces. So now we've got Saturn returning to that area, and essentially Saturn's coming back and tapping us on the shoulder and sort of saying, hey, mate, you got to fix this issue, or you've got to address this problem, or you've got to face something. Saturn is not a planet that is geared to bring us sunshine and roses on a silver platter. That's not Saturn's job. Saturn's job is to bring us tests, it's to bring us challenges, and it's really kind of, as the Bible would say, you will earn bread by the sweat of your brow. That is so Saturn. You will reap what you sow. And so Saturn's coming back to Pisces now for the next 5.5 months to kind of it's basically taking a look at your crops. Are you going to reap what you sow? And what is the quality, perhaps the quantity? It's the North Node after all, of that particular crop that's harvesting. So, this is going to come through with some karmic lessons that might be emotional in nature because Pisces is a water sign. So, it is going to bring themes and flavors of emotions, of our feelings. Saturn can be a planet of, well, it is a planet of negation and denial. So, it might be, what feelings have you not been paying attention to? What ones have you just buried and hoping that they would never resurface? Maybe you've been in denial about your emotions, somebody else's emotions, or you've been in denial about what you have to face within yourself in order to deal with the Saturn part, sorry, the Pisces part of your horoscope. So do sort of think where Pisces is in your birth chart, and that will give you a lot of insight and the Saturn clarity around what this eclipse is going to illuminate. And it's not going to illuminate with a beautiful silver lining. It is going to illuminate it with a deep crimson hue. Reason being that this is a total lunar eclipse. We'll look at the chart in a minute, but the North Node and the moon are only 3 degrees of separation. So this eclipse is going to cast a red shadow across the moon, and it's going to backlight and illuminate the Saturn in Pisces stories for you. So, this eclipse happens amongst quite a lot of changeable astrology that's kind of all coalesced around this first week of September. We've had the arrival of Saturn back into Pisces, which I've mentioned. We also have Uranus stationing in Gemini for the very first time in over 84 years this week. So, if you've got planets or points in the very, very early degrees of Gemini, um, you might be feeling that energy. If you've got a prominent chart placements in Gemini, you might be feeling that energy too. So this is something that's not happened since Uranus was last in Gemini, which was a very long time ago. So Uranus is sort of hitting the brakes this week and is going to make a beeline back for Taurus. So that's very unique astrology, which a good majority of us, I would probably go so far as to say 99.999% have not witnessed before. Yes, we've not lived through it. So this is going to bring some different energy to the vibe of the week and the vibe of this eclipse season. Eclipse seasons are essentially exclamation points in the nodal cycle. So, this particular nodal cycle of Pisces and Virgo started at the very beginning of this year. I think it was around mid January when the nodes changed signs, and they're going to stay there for about an 18-month period, and they will change into Leo and Aquarius, Aquarius being the North Node in July of 2026. And so, for a good 18 months, the eclipses and the nodes are churning up both the Pisces and the Virgo areas of your horoscope. When we have eclipses that take place in Virgo and Pisces, essentially what they are almost like introductions to a new introductions of a new character into the storyline, or you could see it as an exclamation point or the cliffhanger before the next season comes out or the next episode. So on this particular occasion, the new character, the exclamation point, or the cliffhanger could essentially be Saturn. And Saturn might be saying, oh, this old chestnut again. And we've got to look at it, we've got to deal with it, we've got to come to the challenge of it. And it's not in Saturn's interest. Saturn doesn't, its role and function is not to bring gifts on a silver platter and silver linings and all of the good things. Like the Bible says, you will earn through the sweat of your brow. And so Saturn is going to say to you, have you worked hard on this or not? It had a break from Pisces, it's come back. And so now you're getting your cosmic report card on the Saturn in Pisces journey for you. And these eclipses are exaggerating that, emphasizing that, and making that a more obvious thing. What makes this particular variety of energies really unique? Saturn is slow. Saturn is a planet that likes to take its sweet time. It's the slowest moving of all of the visible planets in the sky. But eclipses tend to speed things up. I find myself saying to clients, those things that you're thinking about and you think, maybe 3 to 5 years, but the reality of that could come into fruition 12 to 18 months. And that's because the eclipses have the propensity to speed up events, to bring through changes quickly, and they churn things up. They help us to let things go and embrace the new. So essentially, this eclipse, I may as well share the screen now, actually. If you're watching the video version here on YouTube, you will see that. And if you're seeing following on a podcasting platform, I will explain this. So what we've got here is the actual lunation is taking place at 15 degrees and stuff of Pisces, and it's conjoined the North Node in Pisces, 3 degrees, which qualifies it as a total lunar eclipse. So that will cast the moon a shade of crimson red. And then, of course, we've got Saturn in the mix as well at 29 degrees of Pisces. It's essentially hanging on the last edge of the horoscope, the last edge of the entire zodiac. So it's coming back before we can start something really fresh, before we can start something really new and exciting and alive and passionate and supercharged and all of those Aries qualities. We have to come back and figure out something that might be emotional, something that might be creative or spiritual or a little less um, in your face, but still very much meaningful and required. So the eclipses may sort of speed up a little bit of this. So as I said, usually you'd be kind of saying 3 to 5 years, and then I would say, no, you're looking at around 12 to 18 months. Your Pisces part of your chart could really dramatically shift and change within 5 to 6 months. And this eclipse is going to kind of show you how, what, where, why, and all of the things. So eclipses do tend to be these karmic portals where there's a lot of endings and closures, new beginnings, doors closing, doors opening, and normally they don't always come in a nice, neatly wrapped up bow. It doesn't mean you've neatly squared away one area of life so you can bring in something new. Sometimes something new comes and then you've got to figure out what's old to let go of. This is a lunar eclipse. So it is going to bring things that are emotional, whether that is just to do with emotions at the most basic level and how we feel about things. It is the moon that's full in Pisces. So this can also be our physical bodies. Humans are the moon. We are animate objects. And, we fluctuate, we rise and fall in terms of our figures, in terms of our access to fortune and opportunity. We rise and fall in our energy levels. And it's conjoined the North Node. And so this is showing that we're hungry for something. We're hungry for maybe all of those things, maybe more of a spiritual life or emotional fulfillment, creative outlets, intuition, or a more embodied or uh, sort of mystical or magical um, way of being in the world. Maybe we don't want to consult with a robot that we're human before we log into a website or whatever. Maybe we don't want to be looking at, AI images or having robots tell us what to do. This eclipse may show us in a particular area of life where we are hungry for magic, where we're hungry for a more enchanted, mystical, creative experience. Now, Saturn and the North Node as a planetary pairing or a combination is actually quite ambitious. Um, there's a hunger to whether it's climb the corporate ladder, get the next promotion, the next model of BMW, or whatever it is that you're hungry for in the material world. But this is Pisces, which is more of the imaginative realm and the less physical and the tangible world. So this eclipse might be inviting us to think about how we can merge those two things. How can we create the impossible dream or recommit to it, particularly if you thought it was too hard or not going to work, or maybe I need to be more practical, or maybe I just have to put up and shut up. Saturn's come along back to Pisces and kind of saying, well, is there a dream that you need to recommit to? Maybe you need to address some blocks or obstacles or habits within you that are preventing you from living the impossible dream. Who said it was impossible? There is something about the energy of Pisces that's almost kind of, I guess, a bit like a unicorn, and who says they're not real? So this eclipse may be inviting you to kind of give something one last red hot go. And essentially, this is a red hot moon. but you might have to address something, address those memories, those feelings, those blockages in the body. So this could be a really great eclipse to kind of tap into something, tap into flow, and not see Saturn's presence as an obstacle or a block, but more of a challenge or a wall to climb or an obstacle to overcome, to develop that inner resilience, that inner strength that you don't really know how strong you are until you're tested, right? The quintessential uh, bag, you don't know how strong someone is until you give them a good test or a challenge and they rise up to the call. Now, when we're looking at eclipses and lunations and all of these sorts of things, the ruler is super important. And in this eclipse, we do have the ruler is in spectacular condition. The ruler of Pisces is Jupiter, and Jupiter is at 19 degrees of Cancer in this particular eclipse. So the ruler is exalted. It has resources. It has the capacity to tap into that inner wisdom, that inner knowing, that the things that are very necessary for the human experience can't always be explained. They can't always be quantified by science or answered by ChatGPT, right? There's something real, there's something embodied, and there's something very whole about this combination. And it is being squared. It's just coming out of a square from Mars in Libra. And so we can have dreams, we can have hopes, we can have visions for our future. But this eclipse is reminding us that maybe we need to take some real action to make them manifest. Maybe we have to work a little hard over the course of the next 5 months. But the hard work isn't so much in the doing. The hard work is the believing, the having the hope, the faith, the sense of joy, and letting go of mistakes or maybe letting go of things that haven't worked so well in the past for you, and use this sort of second chapter of Saturn in Pisces to pull your socks back up, get back on the proverbial horse, and believe in an area of life that may have been a little challenging for you, but you can rise above and overcome and take that second bite of the apple, but do it better. So there's a lot of action about this with a cardinal square as a part of this eclipse. So it's, dream the dream, but what practical action steps are you going to take to really manifest it? So that's my take on this week's eclipse. I would love to hear how the energies are playing out for you. Have you felt a little bit maybe sluggish or pseudo depressed? I don't like to use that term. It's because it's used a little bit too widely, but Saturn in Pisces is most definitely an energy drop, moving from a cardinal fire back into mutable water. It's definitely not the most vibrant and dynamic of energy shifts, but it certainly can help us re-tap back into our feelings, define them, get clear about them, and figure out how to move forward from here, particularly over the next 5 to 6 months. So, before I go, on November 29, I am doing a 2026 year ahead workshop in person in Brisbane. So, we had a successful event last year for 2025. So, we're going to be repeating that for next year on the 29th of November. So, if you are in Brisbane, you can make it to Brisbane. I would love to have you in person. I'll put a link in the notes below where you can find out more about that event, and hopefully we will see you there. Of course, if you're after a personal reading around Saturn in Pisces, these eclipses, or anything else that's going on in your life, you can also book in readings over on my website. So until next week, I hope you have a very gentle eclipse, and I would love to hear how it plays out for you. So until next time, I will see you then.